Kelly Jackson's not the only one here on vacation. They also allowed Tony Messenger a couple of days off. But he's back at the salt mines, writing as always, stltoday.com, and with us every Tuesday and Thursday. Good morning, Tony Messenger.
Good morning, McGraw. Good morning, Kelly.
Hey,
How's
Tony.
everybody doing?
Did you go anywhere fancy on your vacation?
Well, first of all, I just want to mention I'm not wearing my Nike gear either.
In protest. Okay, fair enough.
Yeah, in protest. You know, we're in negotiations.
Okay.
We went. My son had a baseball tournament in Chicago, and so we extended the trip and spent a week up in the Windy City and had a blast.
All right, good for you. Good to see it. All right, let's talk a little airport privatization because there's a whole lot of bluster, a whole lot of talk, and I don't know if there's a whole lot of news. Where are we with this whole thing?
Well, one of the biggest things that happened during my time off that I haven't written about yet, but I will be this week, is that the continued sort of air of corruption around this thing got thicker and thicker, and that's because former Mayor Francis Slay, who started the ball rolling on this project, is now lobbying for one of the companies, the third entrant, Ferrovial from Spain, joining Macquarie and Oak Street Capital, trying to bid on the privatization. And so now you have a situation where the mayor who started the process while he was an elected official, the mayor's former two chiefs of staff who worked on that project while they were in the mayor's office, all working in some capacity on trying to one, personally profit from the process, and two, try to influence the existing public officials. So you have the mayor lobbying for one company, you have Jeff Rainford, his former chief of staff, lobbying for another company, and you have Mary Ellen Ponder, his last chief of staff, working for the Rex Sinquefield Travis Brown organization that now has the alleged contract awarded by the city to manage the bidding process. And the reason I say the word alleged is because yesterday I got a response to my latest Sunshine Law request. I want to see the bids. 14 companies bid on this, and Mayor Cruzen talked about how it was going to be an open and transparent process, and the best bidder would win. So what happens after contracts get awarded in government is bids are then made public in some capacity. And so I have filed a Sunshine Law request for those bids. The city won't give them to me yet because the city says that the contract that the mayor and Louis Reed, the president of the Board of Aldermen, voted on has not been executed. It has not been signed yet. And this is really interesting because yesterday they held the first public meeting that was called for in that contract. And so you can't have it both ways. Either the contract exists and is in operation, and if so, we ought to be able to see the other bids to report on how Grow Missouri happened to win that bidding process. How did they get graded? What did the other bidders suggest? What were the differences between the various bids, and why did the city go with Rex Sinquefield to manage the process? But so far, we can't see those documents. So that's not an open and transparent process.
Just so I understand it, they have awarded the contract to sort of investigate the pros and the cons of privatizing the airport.
Well, that's what they say, but look at the Fly 314 website that's being operated by Grow Missouri. It's not investigating the pros and the cons. It's advertising and advocating for privatization. So again, there's another situation where they're trying to have it both ways. My colleague, Celeste Bott, went to the airport advisory group meeting yesterday, and apparently a couple of the public officials who were on that committee raised that question. They said, wait a minute, I thought we were investigating privatization, not advocating for it. This website that's being run by by Grow Missouri is purely advocating. It's not just throwing up the pros and cons up there. For instance, they've got a press section, but they're surely not linking to any of my columns on there.
Right. So the argument is, and the argument is, or the idea is that we will do a will hire a consultant to look at the pros and cons, come back with a report that we can dissect and then have a conversation about the good and the bad. But they hired a company that is stilted to only look at the good.
Well, they only get paid if privatization happens. So there's only one incentive here, and that's for privatization to happen. That's one of the reasons I want to look at the other companies that did, because my suspicion is, based on what I know about the process and know about this sort of thing, is that at least one or two of the companies said, you know what, you can't have a good process. The taxpayers can't be protected if all of the incentive is built into a process where people only get paid if the contract to privatize the airport is executed. My suspicion is some of the bidding documents say that, and maybe that's why the city doesn't want me to report on them. I don't know.
Yeah. Explain, Mayor Slay gets hired by a Spanish firm, but Grow Missouri wins the contract.
Well, Grow Missouri has the contract to basically produce the request for proposals that now these three other firms and maybe more are going to bid on. So the mayor is now lobbying for a company to get the privatization contract that wouldn't even exist if he hadn't started the process while he was the mayor. That is the very definition of an appearance of impropriety. The mayor, if he wants to speak, so far he hasn't, about it, can defend his his reputation, but there's no doubt that there is a severe appearance of impropriety when the mayor and his two former chiefs of staff are working on the project towards privatization and being paid to work on that project towards privatization that they started while they were in office.
Well, Mayor Slay hasn't said anything in the last 4 years of his term, so him talking now would be a rarity.
I'm hoping he has something to say about this, because it does not look good at all.
And the city said to you that they haven't executed any of the contracts, though they already held a meeting with the winner of the contract?
I will be writing about that Wednesday. Your listeners will very much appreciate getting on stltoday.com later this afternoon or seeing in the Dead Tree edition tomorrow morning my column on that topic.
Tony Messer, never a dull moment. Have a good 4th, and Jay will be along Thursday. We can talk about that, and then I'm sure this will be a topic of conversation all summer long. So
Sounds good.
Thanks for checking in.